If you're watching this, there's a good chance you heard this phrase. I need some space. Now, when a woman says that, there's a good chance you think she's overwhelmed, stressed, working through some things, or maybe even you think she's seeing somebody else. So what do? You try to fix it. How do you try to fix it? You start talking more. You start explaining yourself. Even worse, you try to do everything that you think that she wants you to do. You try to fix it all right away. Here's the problem. Most of the time, that's not actually the real issue why she said she needs some space. When a woman says she needs some space, usually it means there was a dynamic within the relationship that shifted or changed. You've missed all the signs leading up to the I need some space sentence. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what usually happens before a woman says I need some space and why you didn't recognize the shift before it happened. What men usually think is happening, a lot of times we seem to think, well, she's stressed out. Maybe work, maybe household chores, maybe the children, maybe something with her mother, maybe something with your mother. A lot of times we hear that and we think, all right, she's just stressed. She's overwhelmed. It's a lot going on right now. And naturally, you want to give her the space or you want to let her know that you're there for her. And in doing that, you tend to think that you need to be there for her emotionally. Now, with that being said, how do you be there for her emotionally? Usually it happens in the form of you want to talk more. You hear that women like communication and they say we don't communicate enough with them. So you think, okay, let's talk it out. Let's talk more. You want to reassure her that you're here for her and whatever she needs, you're here for her. And you also more than likely became extremely accommodating. Whatever she wants, whatever she needs, okay, honey, I got it. I'll do it. You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to take some of that stress off her plate. I know. But here's the big problem. When she asked for space, the problem or issue didn't start that week. It probably started months ago, or at least weeks ago. With space usually signals, it usually means something in your relationship, dynamic, shifted or changed, altered in some way. That alteration might involve a few things. It could be attraction, respect, some old tensions that never got resolved, maybe emotional distance that's been building up over time. So the conversation about space is just simply the moment it got spoken out loud. So the stages that happen before she ever even says that to you. Stage one, she usually becomes less affectionate toward you. Not as much touchy, feely, not as much kisses and action in the bedroom. Might not stop completely, but it declines. She's also less curious about what's going on in your life, like what you're doing day to day. You know, she Maybe she used to bug you, like, where were you at? Or what happened between then? Or, how was work? Or anything like that. She'll tend to be less concerned about those issues in stage one. You'll also notice that she'll probably tend to be less enthusiastic in conversations with you. When a woman is with a man that she loves and she's talking to him, a lot of times she's enthusiastic, chipper. That tends to fade during stage one. The key here is nothing actually really dramatic. Little subtle signs that most men will not pick up on immediately. Stage two now, this becomes I call irritation phase. In the irritation phase, she tends to be irritable. Small things start to bother her more than usual. You might find out that you guys start to argue a little bit more. Disagreements happen more often. Criticisms may start to show up that you didn't even notice you had. And again, most of the time, you don't even notice it because you're living life thinking, okay, this is just stress. She's a little stressed, and you brush that off. Then comes stage three, withdrawal. During this stage, there's noticeably less conversations between you and her. She doesn't really initiate conversations. She gets quiet. She's not really asking about your day. She's not asking about work. She's not asking about where you were. She kind of doesn't care. There's no engagement. Like, you'll ask her a question, she'll give you short answers, things of that nature. The connection is noticeably off. You may not be getting hardly any affection at this point. You'll start noticing at this point because it's clear. You'll start asking the questions like, what's wrong with you? Things like that. And you'll get the, nothing. What do you mean? You'll get that. We all know that. And so the key here is in stage three, you realize something's wrong, but you don't know what it is or why. In comes stage four. I need some space. This is when the conversation is being had, and this is where you're at right now. And by this point, the change and the shift and the alteration in the dynamic of your relationship has already happened. You've been through 3 stages already and didn't even really notice it until the last stage, which is why you were so caught off guard. It came out of nowhere. It was like all of a sudden, she's quiet, she's a little stressed, and then she needs some space, and you got hit with this bomb. Now here comes the mistake that you probably made, because most men do. So now you panic. You panicked. She told you that, and then you said, oh, I got to do something now, for sure. I got to fix this. I'm not trying to lose my woman. So you try to repair the relationship emotionally. At this point, you're probably going to push for answers. I need answers, because if it's this serious and I barely even noticed anything, I didn't see anything that happened that was so serious that now we need space. You try to use logic to convince her that this is not the best idea. This is normal for men. So don't feel like you handled it. Well, you did handle it wrong, but don't feel like you handled it different than most men. Most men actually handle it this way. This phase, that is pressure. When you apply the pressure to her at that moment, it's going to make the distance grow. It's not going to make you guys come closer together. It's going to make you go further apart. And it's going to make you look a little, what's the word I'm trying to say here? I don't want to say pathetic, but needy. Needy is probably the word I'll use. You can say pathetic. I didn't say that. You said that. There's also something deeper that most men miss. You probably did as well. Relationships don't collapse with a conversation. There was no a conversation that brought this along. There was no a conversation that made her want space. Most of the time. I mean, unless you had a very disturbing conversation. But most of the time, with two people who loved each other, a conversation doesn't do it. It's small changes over time. It slowly happens, and that's why you don't realize it. You didn't notice it because it happened slowly over time. Small shifts in the dynamic of the relationship. When your leadership starts to fade and you start to compromise, the connection will start to fade. You won't be as connected as you were. Especially for those of you whose relationship started off in where you did lead. You were the leader of your family and of your relationship. And then over time, you got soft. You didn't set direction and enforce that direction that you set. So you started letting things slide to keep the peace. When direction fades in a relationship, confusion tends to replace it. She'll say stuff like, where are we going? Not actually where are we going, but like she's talking about in terms of the relationship. Because she's confused. Your lack of direction confused her. A lack of direction is not just a relationship issue. It's a life issue. It's a life pattern. A man whose life has a clear direction tends to bring stability into his relationships. But when a man loses direction in his own life path, his discipline, his standards, his focus, that instability always tend to show up in his relationships as well. Your woman is emotionally in tune to you more than you are to her. So she notices all those little deviations, all the little I'll do it laters, or you figure it out, you do it, whatever you want, all of that stuff, those little alterations, those little concessions that you make in the relationship and leading the direction of the relationship, she notices. And once she notices it's a pattern, then she gets curious or confused about what life long term with you looks like. And this is why chasing the relationship, trying to fix it right in that moment, is the wrong move, and it won't fix the problem. Because you got here because of patterns. So what you say right now isn't going to change the pattern that you've shown her over the last couple of months or even years. Because the deeper correction isn't convincing someone to stay. It's actually rebuilding clarity and direction in your own life. You see, when that happens, everything else around the man tends to stabilize. When a woman says she needs space, most men tend to treat it like it was a sudden emotional decision. She's being irrational. But most of the time, it isn't sudden. It didn't just happen. It wasn't an irrational emotional decision. It's merely a result of changes, small changes that's been happening over time. Now, I want you to be clear. Understanding the pattern does not mean that every relationship can be saved. I'm not saying that you now know what happened, so now you know how to get her back, because not every relationship can be saved. But it does mean that you can learn from the moment instead of reacting to it emotionally. When a man restores order and direction in his own life, he stops being blindsided by those types of situations. And truthfully, that's where the real control begins. Structure decides who stays in the room.